It's the president's birthday today. Let's look at the top 10 swamps in gaming.
The second game in the infamous series takes place in New Marais, this universe's version of New Orleans. Similarly, the first game had Empire City instead of New York, and Second Son had Seattle instead of Seattle. In addition to the lively atmosphere that beautifully emulates the Big Easy, Sucker Punch chose to add something a little more real, an entire section of the city called Flood Town that was destroyed by a hurricane before this game takes place. The entire game is a bit on the darker side, considering the whole focus is stopping a living, moving apocalypse, but something about Flood Town takes it to another level. There's almost no electricity here, obviously, which makes it tough for our lightning conduit Cole to use all of his abilities. There are destroyed buildings everywhere, there's almost no actual land for you to traverse on, and since Cole doesn't do well around water, it takes the game in an entirely different direction while you're here. However, it's not a swamp in the traditional sense, so I can't really place it much higher than number 10. The second planet in 2005's Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal, Florana is home to the mythical Florana Tree Beast, a former superhero that has recently gone insane. It's Quark. It's Captain Quark. In addition to the Big Oaf, though, there's an entire species of locals that will make sure to defend their swampy homeworld, these Cthulhu dragons that live in the murky water, giant fireflies, and a one-eyed monkey named Scrunch. There's even a trophy of Ratchet hidden somewhere in this lush jungle. You've just gotta find it and grab it by the Lombax. You gotta grab it by the Lombax. However, this level isn't entirely swamp. By the end, you're walking the Path of Death, which is more of a tribal lava challenge than a swamp, and you fight the tree beast after you realize that, again, it's Quark. Can you believe this idiot would become president? Come on. It's Shrek. I've reviewed 4 Shrek games already. They all have swamps. If you've watched the videos, you know that they all have swamps. And if you haven't, you should probably go watch those. You can watch me fall further and further into insanity. One of the levels in the second hub area in Jak and Daxter, Bogy Swamp is a large, dark area filled with all kinds of enemies and obstacles. From this local who really just wants you to save his pet pig, to the Flut bird that'll help you float across large gaps, there's always something new to do here. However, the level often sort of meshes together. There's a lot of areas that seem distinct but later blend into one another. This means that, while it's actually a really fun swamp level, it sort of starts to drag by the end. The final area in the main storyline of Level 5's wonderful JRPG Ni no Kuni, the Miasma Marsh, is mentioned several times throughout the 40-hour adventure, and it's treated as the ultimate goal for Oliver, Drippy, and the whole crew. At the end of the bog sits Shadar's castle, but first you must adventure through a dark, poisonous path. Like, really poisonous. There's a reason it has the name it does.
Oh, the mist is so thick, it's going into my throat. I'm gonna need my nebulizer. What? Miasma.
Yeah, I know it's a marsh and technically not a swamp, but I really didn't feel like plugging in my PS2 to record Dagobah in Star Wars Battlefront 2, so here we are. Moving on. Oh, crap, I only have 9. Number 5 is Dagobah from Star Wars Battlefront 2. Home to countless battles between friends and foes, locally or online, Dagobah is the planet that Yoda's exiled to at the end of Revenge of the Sith. A large, sweeping area with places to hide, points to capture, and a strong mist all around you. It's a wonderful atmosphere to play in, despite the overwhelming, negative plant cafe Home to the Deku Kingdom in the land of Termina, the southern swamp is an unsettling area. Well, really all of Majora's Mask is unsettling, in the best way possible. Link journeys here in order to drain the swamp of its poison and enlist the help of one of Termina's 4 giants in his ultimate goal to stop the moon from falling. While he's here, he can also mock an injured old lady. Yeah, you want this potion? Nah, I'm feeling a bit thirsty. This constant eerie feeling you have while exploring the area's poisonous waters, sneaking around the hostile Deku Palace, and adventuring deeper and deeper into the swamp is almost unparalleled. Arguably the most enjoyable swamp on this list, Banjo-Kazooie's Bubble Gloop Swamp makes near perfect use of its real estate. No corner is left unused here, from the poisonous muck that Kazooie needs special rain boots to run around in, to the inside of a sick turtle. Okay. Everything is made important here. That's not a surprise at all, of course, this is Banjo-Kazooie we're talking about after all. But swamps are usually considered one of the more boring level tropes in terms of design. The overuse of mud or quicksand that'll suck in and kill players, the constant muted shades of green and brown, the lack of lighting to make things dark and spooky, the dull soundtracks. Banjo shows that a swamp level can be fun to play, that it can look good, and that it can sound good while doing so. Vicious Voodoo is often considered the worst world in the original Sly Cooper, and for good reason. This swamp sucks, but in a good way. It's creepy, it makes you want to go back to the bright and vibrant levels from the previous world, or even the rainy overworld of the first hub. The music is full of slow, eerie beats with a hefty amount of ambient noise blasting your senses. You're not really meant to like Vicious Voodoo, and that's part of what makes it good. Many swamp levels just aren't fun to play, but this swamp isn't fun to be in. But the levels are unique and interesting, which makes you want to progress, even if the swamp feels like a swamp. And it does this without invoking too many of the trite obstacles like sticky mud or, oh my god, is that a dragon? And the number one swamp in gaming is Washington, D.C.
Now I hear you asking, wait, doesn't Fallout 3 already actually have a swamp area? Shut up.
Washington, D.C. is a horrible place. It's filled with angry mutants, it's tough to get around in, it's ugly, and I'm just talking about real life. In Fallout, it's even worse. The D.C. Mall in Fallout 3 is the worst of the worst, though. Super mutants that'll attack you, slave traders, angry robots, raiders, the Brotherhood of Steel, the list goes on. And everything wants to kill you, for no reason. Look at that crowd size, that's gotta be record attendance right there. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you look like. Washington, D.C. will eat you alive.
That's it for the top 10 swamps in gaming. As always, thanks for watching, and make sure you join me on August 4th when we look at the top 10 video game characters that lied about their birth certificates.